Welcome to another episode of Retained on the GrowthAmped podcast channel, the show where we go deep with the marketing leaders who are actually doing the work, not just talking about it. Today, I'm sitting down with someone who has been on the internet since the dial-up days, long before SEO was even a word people used in business. Carl Willis is the CEO and lead strategist of Simplicity Marketing, a nationally focused AI-first agency that serves SMB customers across the country through multiple niche brands. He is an international speaker, author, pastor turned entrepreneur, a guy who's been to Kenya 31 times, India 19 times, and still comes back ready to reverse engineer Google's next move for his clients. Carl, welcome to Retained.
Hey, thank you for having me today.
It's my pleasure. So, the obvious question, so much travel, so much activity, and you still got that spunk and you're still keeping the agency and your customers in action, in business, doing well. What's the secret?
Well, first of all the travel stuff is the heart passion, but as with most heart passions, it doesn't pay the bills. So you have to come back and do something to sustain the philanthropic side of what you do, the humanitarian side of what you do. And so that's always been the driver. You've got to have a bigger why behind what you do. Otherwise, you just work, and that in itself is not very fulfilling. And so that's my why that makes me cry. And so that's what gets me up in the mornings and gives me fulfillment. But it's figuring out how to help my clients accomplish their why and chase their dreams that really is the motivator. And as Jim Rohn once said, or actually it wasn't Jim Rohn, it was Zig Ziglar, help enough people get what they want in this world and they'll help you get what you want. And that's really kind of been the marching order, is helping others figure out how to get what they want and put the pieces together. And that's helped me do the things that I want to do.
Absolutely. So, it looks like the business is the fuel to the passion of the heart that's fulfilling the journey.
Exactly.
All right. Well, now we know.
Now we
So,
know.
So your journey is one of the most unusual paths to agency ownership I've come across. And you started tinkering with online businesses in the dial-up era, became a Series 7 financial advisor, and then went into pastoral ministry and planted a church. And somewhere in there decided that the internet was going to be how you funded a portable, scalable, global, mobile life, right? Walk us through how all those dots connected and how simplicity marketing came out of that story.
Yeah. So let's start with the dial up days. So this thing called the internet came around, and this would have been in the mid 90s. My first online experience, I had a 286 computer that my dad had converted to a 386 computer. Uh, and my dad was a data processing guru. He had helped develop the IBM 360 mainframe back in the 60s. He was a data processing manager. So I grew up in large computer data rooms where you had cooling floors and disk drive looked like a big cake and had less computing power than a calculator does now. And that was my exposure, punch cards. And I thought, man, there is no way in the world I want anything to do with that. My first computer as a kid was a Sinclair ZX81 that ran on a cassette tape player with a black and white 13-inch television. And I learned BASIC on an Apple IIe computer. And I'm like, there's no way I ever want to touch a computer ever again. And the only thing I ever used them for in my early 20s, I was a street cop. So that's the other part of my story. And I used a word processor, 286 word processor type police reports. So that was it. But my dad, Windows got introduced. And so he shows up at my house with this 286 that had been converted to a 386 with Windows 3.1. And I was like, man, this thing's kind of cool. Like, it's a graphical interface. I don't have to program anything. There's no go sub, you can do more with it. And he got me a CompuServe account. All right. So my user address looked like a zip code, couple of numbers at whatever CompuServe.com,
Sure.
and a dial up modem. My first dial up modem, slow as could be, but it got me to the internet. And so I got to thinking, there's got to be a way to make money with this. And eBay came along. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to sell decorative vases and costume jewelry drop ship on eBay. And the only problem was I was trying to fulfill it from China. And if you can imagine, in the mid 90s on a dial up modem that is slow as can be, fulfillment and shipping and communication was atrocious. And so, needless to say, it didn't work very well. And I ended up losing money. And so, my next foray was doing remote staffing with my dial up 386 computer and my modem on my CompuServe account. And I was great at finding people who needed jobs. I was horrible at finding people to hire. But I just kept plugging along, kept trying different things, and just kept doing that as I went along. Went ahead and got into financial advisory work, ended up starting the church, but always a serial entrepreneur, always trying new things. I mean, I just always starting little businesses on the side. And then in 2008, decided to plant a church, but I wanted to do things differently. I wanted to have something that was portable, scalable, reproducible. I'd been to India for the first time. And then the second time, I was just hooked. Like, man, this is part of what I want to do. And so, being a Series 7 advisor, I couldn't take that with me. I couldn't reproduce it. I couldn't scale it. And my clients probably weren't going to be real fond of me managing their money from a third world country. So, what do I do? So, one day I'm sitting at home and I got this idea. Some friends of my parents had accosted my wife and I at dinner one night with Amway. And accosted's the best word. They invited us over for dinner, and lo and behold, out comes the Amway presentation. I'm like, man, that's just nauseating. But I realized there's a lot of people that dig that kind of stuff. And this whole internet thing, I think if you get in front of them with the internet, you could build a business that way. And so that became my hypothesis. And so I started building network marketing companies using the internet. So I started learning SEO, social media, paid ads, and started building some network marketing companies that way. The only problem is the companies would fall apart or attrition was always terrible. And it was hard to keep a sustainable, consistent income. That was kind of the rub with it. I'd build one up, had two companies where the owners ran them into the ground. That was always the frustration.
Yeah.
And so one day, my wife was at a networking meeting and an attorney approached her and said, "Hey, you guys do internet marketing. Would you guys be interested in running the marketing for my law firm?" Light bulb went on. Hey, that's stupid simple. I mean, I already know how to do this stuff. Why
Right.
not?
Sure.
And she's not going to quit next month because her garage is full of soap or vitamins. So, let's give that a shot. And I just decided this is great. Long term relationship, started picking up more clients, and the rest is history. The only thing that changed is as I got further down the road, I realized really the path to scale was to niche down, pick an industry and replicate systems. And that was the path to scaling and moving faster.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite a journey. And very interesting that you found your light bulb moment with multi level marketing, which I know a lot of people have disdain for these days. And it's been around for a while and everybody so frowns upon it. So great that you took some learnings from there and you put technology in place and built it. When we talked last, you mentioned that you were paying very close attention to what Google was signaling over the last 60 days and what they rolled out at Google I/O 2026. And your take was pretty direct. If you don't adapt, you're going to fall off the face of the earth. What exactly is changing, and what is more fundamental than just another algorithm update?
Yeah. So this is really important. Google hasn't really changed their search process in 25 years. They'll do algorithm updates, they'll add a few new things, but they are fundamentally changing things. And what was really telling was their CEO did an interview with Stripe in March. And in an hour-long interview, he mentioned websites twice. And what he really began to talk about was that the search box was going to become an AI agent management box.
Sure.
And that the process of search was really going to become an agentic management tool. And I paid attention to that. I said, he's telling us something that I already felt was coming. We had been predicting that for a while. We had adjusted our own business model with that thought in mind, but he really validated what we believed was coming. And what was interesting, a week after that interview was released and we released our first white paper, Google rolled out their first two agentic pieces, one in their flights component of Google search. The next one was in their restaurants piece of Google search. And then IO 2026, they rolled out really their bigger picture. One of the key components of that was integrating their Spark agent into the Chrome browser. In fact, if you go to their beta lab right now, you can play with it. And depending on where you're at, they're already rolling it out. It'll be rolled out this summer. But what is truly happening is that Google is moving search to an agentic process of agent management and becoming more custom tailored to what it is you're trying to accomplish, so that it's no longer you having to research through blue links, but it is your agent performing the task for you and helping you accomplish what is that end result that you are actually after. You're not out to do a research project, you're actually trying to accomplish a larger task behind it. And that is Google's objective, is to help you accomplish that task using AI agents as the process. Now, the interesting part of that is even one of my staff members says, yeah, but most people don't even know what an AI agent is. So how's that going to happen? And I said, they're simply going to bake it into the process and you won't even know you're using it,
Sure.
which is what we're seeing happen right now.
Wow, this is definitely interesting because I gave this a thought not too long ago, and I was thinking, well, as more people start using answer engines in place of search engines, what happens to all that hardware that was deployed when everybody was doing Google searches, right? There's a huge infrastructure out there that was put in place for the world's Google searches, how many ever billion searches there are on a month to month basis. If that drops and there's so many people shifting over to Gemini or Claude or just Google or non Google solutions, right? They're shifting out. What do you think that does to how Google would have to pivot to accommodate a load balancing? Because the indexing is a lot less processor intensive compared to LLM algorithmic intellectual search.
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. And here's the interesting part of that is it doesn't go away. It still is very useful. It's all data. It's a data layer. But what happens is the way that data layer gets used. And so what happens to the traditional SEO is it's not as important as it once was. It's not the end result that it once was, because in the past, we were looking at keywords as being the driving force. But today's AI driven environment is a decision making process. It's not a keyword ranking process. And so, what the AI is doing is it's helping us make decisions and it's helping feed that decision making process. Whereas today's homeowner, and I'll give you an example. So, one of our verticals is home remodeling companies.
Mhm.
So in the past, we would try and target home remodeling contractor near me. Well, that's not how a homeowner wakes up in the morning to make that decision. They don't get out of bed and go, hey, I think I'm interested in a home remodeling contractor near me. What they're interested in is I'm tired of my crappy bathroom back here that I really want to replace my old bathtub with a new walk-in shower and a car wash arrangement on the shower heads. And I'd like heated tile on the floors. And what I'm looking for is a contractor that can work around my schedule with good reviews. And they've got this whole list of decision-making criteria. That's what's on their mind. And the AI-driven environment is operating on those parameters,
Mhm.
not on home remodeling contractor near me.
Sure. So it's almost like that phrase, I'll have my people call your people, right? So instead of that, I'll have my agent talk to your agent to get me 5 competitive bids because I feel the need to do some remodeling. Do you ever think that will, I mean, I shouldn't say, do you ever think, how soon do you think that will be a reality where your agent or your home automation device, right? Whether it's a Google Home, Alexa, Apple HomePod, or whatever, it's listening to you. And it's not just listening like eavesdropping, but is looking for intent that, hey, Carl talked about this. He is discussing this with his family in his living room. Let me go and find five different options to help him out. What do you think? Let's put some predictions out there.
I
When do
think
you
we're
think that happens?
already getting there. So in certain markets, you can already start to pull searches and Google's AI will offer to call for you to check, is this
Sure.
available? To make
Yes.
reservations, to
Yes.
we're having to tell our clients, hey, don't hang up if Google calls. They may be checking your availability.
Yeah.
So we are already seeing those types of things coming into play. I think we're closer to that than we realize. Everybody internally at Google that we have interactions with is telling us 2027 is going to be a big year. Pachai even alluded a few times 2027 is going to be a big year. I think that's some of what they are perhaps preparing us for is the next iteration of the agentic phase is just that, where the agent will say, would you like me to go ahead and start that process for you? Because I'm looking at your calendar, and this was one of the scenarios he gave in his interview. I'm planning a vacation. Well, I was looking at your calendar. You have these dates open. Would you like me to use your American Express card or would you like me to use your Visa? Those are both in your
Sure.
Google Wallet.
Yeah.
I noticed that you've got frequent flyer miles already on your American Airlines account. Would you like me to book it through American Airlines? Because we've already given our agent access to all of those
Hmm.
things. My AI agents that I use already know my thought process, my decision making process. They're
Yeah.
pretty well trained on the way I do things. They know my habits and patterns. In fact, I have to argue with my OpenClaw agent all the time about it's telling me, you should probably go to bed now. No, I'm not done working yet. So we're kind of getting into that mode with our AI agents. And I do think we're not far off 12 to 18 months, and we're going to see that starts to become a normal flow. You've been talking about that. Are you ready for me to go ahead and put that in motion for you?
Right. You ever tell your open cloud? I already have a wife. Thank you very much.
Yeah, pretty much. In fact, my OpenClaw and I were having a little conversation today because OpenClaw was analyzing a problem and was jumping to conclusions. And I said, well, have you ever known me to make decisions that way? Well, no. Well, you're supposed to know me better than almost anybody else. And so we were kind of back and forth, so it's getting to that point where that really is the next step. You've been talking about this. Would you like me to do that? And even we're training our AIs to help us with things like healthcare and our
Hmm.
exercise program. Hey, you've been talking about getting off your butt and getting out there and running or going to the gym. I noticed you haven't been to Planet Fitness for a few days. You think you might get by there today? So we're getting to that point.
Nice. Well, this kind of weaves in well with what I was going to talk about next with you. So, and you use this phrase, right? Can a machine look at what I'm putting out there and come up with the same conclusion as a human would, right? Now, how does the business, right? How does simplicity marketing actually solve that problem for clients? And what does building those data layers look like in practice?
So it can to a degree. There is always a place where experience and expertise cannot totally be replaced. And this is always going to be the place where you are not irreplaceable. There are certain places where your experience, your ability to tap into emotion, your ability to tap into interaction, the AI can never replicate. It can read data. And that is always the advantage that you have. So, one of the things that we do for our clients and with our clients is we make them tell their story. What makes you unique? What makes you different? What makes you stand out? And that is part of what we train the AI with, is so that it can amplify what makes them unique, but it can never replace that. But it can amplify it. It can deploy that unique selling proposition. It can deploy that unique story in many places and it can do it very efficiently. The other thing that the AI can do that we use it for very efficiently is we know that Google's algorithm and Meta's algorithm is slanted towards their purposes. So we train our AIs on our client's behalf to be slanted towards our client's purposes. So it's working against Google and Meta's algorithm, whether it's their advertising algorithm or their SEO algorithm. It's always studying what is Google doing, what is Meta doing, and here's our client's objective. So what do we have to do in response to that to give our client the best advantage in their marketplace and in their environment? Because the Google rep calls our clients on a regular basis, especially those that are advertising. Let me help you optimize your account. And what that really means is let me help you push some buttons that is going to spend your budget faster than you could ever imagine. And it's going to run it through the roof. And you're going to get lots of clicks, but they're not going to convert very well. And you're going to get horrible lead quality out of it.
Right.
But it'll be really optimized.
You'll be really busy
You'll be
chasing
really busy
chasing your tail.
chasing your tail. And by golly, your ad account is going to say 100% optimized. And you're going to go, why is my bill so high?
Yeah. That's an interesting point because, yeah, all the platforms have a bias. So we're the customer advocates.
I told you this on our preliminary call. I'm a child of the 80s. And when the Terminator shows up, you got to have another Terminator. So that's the game we play.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've built three distinct brands and you're nationally focused, not just Wichita. Who is the ideal client for each of those brands? And what does the client look like who's actually ready to win in this new AI first ecosystem?
Well, ideally, the ideal client has a bigger picture of what they want to accomplish. And this is really critical. A person who doesn't know where they're going is not a good client because they have no vision.
Mhm.
And if you don't know where you're headed, you're going to be just stuck. You've got to know what the end game is. This is a conversation I have with a lot of clients. What's the end game for you? Are you in this for the long haul? Is this a retirement piece? Is this a legacy piece? You passing this on to your kids? Are you going to scale this and sell it? Are you wanting to diversify into other businesses? What are you here for? Like, what are you doing this for? Or like me, I do this to fund the weekend gig, so to speak. What's your real reason for doing what you do? Because as entrepreneurs, well, let's be honest, we take on a lot of headache. We take on a lot of pressure for a reason. We work 90 hours a week to avoid a job for a reason. And so there's a deeper motivation underneath that I need to be able to uncover so that I can serve you well. And if you haven't figured that out, then I can't really serve you well because what that means is you're going to be stuck. You're going to go through the motions. You're not going to be able to give me good answers. You're not going to be able to tell your story. It's amazing how many times I will ask a prospective client, what makes you different? Why you? Why would I hire you? Well, I don't know. Well, then what do you want me to do for you? Like, what am I supposed to tell your prospective audience out here?
Yeah. What's the B2C message?
Yeah. I mean, seriously, like if you don't know, I'm supposed to amplify that. And so that's truthfully, the ideal client for us is the person that knows where they're going. What they don't know is how to put it all together.
Sure.
And ideally, the person that we're really working for is the person that sees the changing landscape and goes, I know I need to do something. I just don't know how to get from point A to point B. I've been watching for the last 3 years. Google has changed the game. The traffic to my website, the traffic to my Google business profile is decreasing. I've been reading the articles. I know it's happening. I know it's happening across the board. I just don't know what to do. And the problem that so many marketers have, and I don't mind throwing mud on my industry, is so many marketers still operate in silo mentality. I'm an ads guy. I'm an SEO guy. I'm a this. Well, the problem is AI doesn't operate that way. Google doesn't operate that way. Everything operates in an ecosystem. Your customer today starts their day on the toilet with a smartphone in their hand, scrolling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and before the
Sure.
day is over, they have picked up a tablet, they have picked up their phone, they have
Mhm.
picked up a laptop, they have sat at a desk somewhere, and they have been to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Google, you name it. They've been on 5, 6, 7 different platforms. And by the time they call you, they have looked at you from 5, 6, 7 different platforms, from 3 or 4 different devices over a period of days, weeks, or months. And they've already made up their mind. The decision is almost made by the time they actually contact you. So, what's different today is 3, 4, 5 years ago, the sale hadn't been made yet when they contacted you. Today, their mind's already made up. All they're doing is they are validating and affirming their decision
Yep.
when they contact you.
Yeah. 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 I love that perspective. That's very true. While we are on this subject, right, and we're talking about your multi-brand operation, what's one challenge if across these brands that if solved would make the biggest difference for you in the next 12 to 18 months?
Probably the biggest challenge that I truly face is I have a lot of opportunity to do these kinds of things.
Mhm.
Podcasts, make content, and I wish that I had more time in my day to do more of this. And so it's picking and choosing what's the highest and best use of my time when it comes to these. So I told you about my AI assistant that I was arguing with. Part of his job is he filters which ones do I choose and which ones don't I choose. And so it's determining what's the highest and best use of my time. And that honestly is probably the greatest thing for me as I get older. I've got 4 grandchildren. I've got start to realize I'm not as young as I once was, and time becomes even more valuable. And so if I'm going to spend some time and I'm going to open my mouth somewhere, I want it to count. And so I want it to count in the right places with the right audiences. And so I need to be a little more selective about where I choose to deploy that time. And so that's probably the best answer to that. I'm pretty good about using systems and having the right people around me. So even though it's multiple brands and things like that, I'm not as busy as people would think I am. More of it is being strategic in and choosing the right places and people to align myself with so that I'm using my time wisely.
That makes sense. Everybody, rich or poor, has limited time. And then depending on your wealth, you have limited or not so limited money. So, yeah, I can see how, you've got these engines that are running pretty well. And where do you invest your time? Is it towards more building? Is it towards the messaging aspect? Is it more of a relationship aspect with your customers? Or where your heart takes you on the weekends? On that note, what's working exceptionally well in how you acquire new clients today, and where do you think there's still untapped potential?
Honestly, and this is probably the biggest golden nugget for anybody listening. In today's world, you almost have to become a media company first and fulfill doing whatever it is your business is on the back end. And that is really our greatest client acquisition strategy. We acquire more clients through our podcasts, through our YouTube channels, and through the content that we produce, whether that be blogs or books, but it's by putting out information is really our greatest client acquisition strategy. Our best clients are the clients that have spent time consuming our content. In fact, I get a little scared when you book a call with us and you tell us I found you through an ad. I cringe a little bit. So you don't know anything about us, huh? I almost want to tell you, would you go spend about 6 months and get to know us a little bit and then come back? Because if you don't, what you tend to be is a price shopper. And I'd rather you get to know us and buy into us and then come
Yeah.
back. You're a better client if you do that because the people who come to us who have spent time getting to know who we are and our value and our expertise, they don't leave us. They stay with us for years.
Yeah.
The people who I clicked your ad and I decided to book a call with you and, hey, sign me up. If we can even hang on to them a year sometimes, it's a battle because they
But that
haven't
means your
bought
ads
into
work.
it yet.
I'm sorry.
They haven't bought into us yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but that also means that your ads work, right? You got the click through. and you capture the lead, they just may not be long term, but I guess that remains to be seen.
That's it. So we would prefer really get to know us through these other means. But what we find really is that in today's world, content is the bigger driver. Content to commerce is actually your better step. If you will spend time putting value, authority, and expertise into the market, it will pay you better in the long run. Your ROI is going to be multiples above anything you will get off of paid ads or any other mechanism that you're using.
Yeah, that's very true. There's a question that I've heard asked before from business owners to clients, right? Are you looking to get the job done? Are you looking to get the job done right? Or are you looking to save money, right? So we may not be the cheapest company to get this accomplished, but we pride ourselves on being the best at the service and retain our customer retentions, right? So does that resonate with your messaging when you talk to new customers and they're like, I thought this was your ad said it was 99.99. Why is it 129.99?
hmm Yeah, we are unapologetically that way. We very much let people know we are a growth partner. We are
Yeah.
not a vendor and we are not a
Right.
service provider.
Yep.
We're a growth partner.
Yep.
And you need to realize that to work with us is an investment. It is going to be an investment. And if all you're looking for is a service provider or a vendor, then let's go ahead and get you down the road
Right.
because we're just not who you're looking for.
So, with this being said, if you could wave a magic wand and instantly solve one operational or growth problem inside your agencies, your businesses, right? Whether it's lead gen, scaling delivery, or something in the AI stack, what would it be and why?
If I could solve any one problem, it is I would love to help my team members accelerate their strategic thinking quicker. So, the biggest challenge that I often face is I find that creating strategic thinking in my team is sometimes challenging because a lot of people today are trained in a skill set or a technical discipline and they struggle to think at a strategic higher level. So I'm going to give you an example. I've got a team member that he's very good at process thinking, but struggles with strategic thinking to the point that I've had to think about how do I teach you to think like a business owner?
Mhm.
So one of the things that I had to implement was an email autopsy process anytime a client emails him
Okay.
because he would immediately default to process and start answering those emails from a process standpoint. And sometimes he was answering the wrong question. And
Sure.
so I finally said, I need to help you to think like the person who's emailing you. So you have to do an autopsy on every email you receive from a client.
Mhm.
And here's the autopsy questions that you have to ask with every email you receive, because sometimes you're answering the wrong question.
Right.
And so what that was to do was to teach strategic thinking.
Do you think strategic thinking is always teachable, or do you find that at some point some people are not strategic, they are more process, or they don't have that level of analytical skills where they can put themselves in that position to think through, okay, he's asking me this, that means he is stuck at X step and trying to get to Z, but I'm answering him for V and W. I need to be thinking of how to get him from X to Y to Z. If that gene's not built in, what do you do?
Well, that's why you as a leader have to adapt your strategy. So the reason I gave him an email autopsy was because that's an SOP. He's a process guy.
Yeah.
So it gives him a process. Step one, ask this
Yeah.
question. Step two, ask this question. Step three, ask this question. So what I had to do was I had to adjust to his way of thinking and give him a process to follow.
It's a little bit of the secret sauce here. And you probably think about it in this way already, but every time there's a new problem that needs solving, right? I try to think about it in terms of what is the pain? What is the outcome you want? And what mechanism can I put in place to get you that outcome? So I have felt like I've told a lot of people this, right? Think pain mechanism outcome, pain mechanism outcome. If you do that, you're autopsy results should bear fruit. Yeah. So, well, this is great. We're getting into the last section of our podcast. So let's talk a little bit about operational efficiency and long term vision, right? You said something that stuck with me. In this AI era, right? The value of the AI is it's the person who knows how to stack the technology and make it do what a client actually needs. So, what can you tell our viewers or what can you tell our listeners about that?
Sure. So the real value behind AI isn't really the AI, it's you. And I want to drive that point home more than anything else. You are the value behind the AI. When that client comes to you, they have a problem they need solved. What they need is your expertise to know what AI needs to be deployed on their behalf to solve that problem. And this is the piece that I think so many people are missing. Everybody's worried about, well, is AI going to replace me? Is AI going to do this? Wrong question. The real issue here is, are you learning which AI goes with which other AI to best solve the problem? I'll give you a great example. In our business, I found that one of my sweet spots is Perplexity is a great architect. Claude is a good builder, but sometimes Claude gets stuck. And when Claude gets stuck, Manus does a great job of figuring out workarounds for Claude. And when those two get stuck, DeepSeek does a great job of getting around whatever those two can't seem to figure out. And so I use that mechanism wonderfully. I've also found that OpenClaw is really good for chief of staff work, but doesn't do a great job with subagents. But Hermes does a better job of spinning up subagents and working those on a regular basis. So in my model, my chief of staff is my OpenClaw setup, and my subagent manager is my Hermes setup. And so I use those things specifically. My day to day interaction with clients is custom GPTs maintain all of the client knowledge. But then we also have agents that work with each of our specific clients that have all the custom GPT knowledge. We use a RAG API setup to maintain the second brain, if you will, of all that client knowledge. It's knowing how to stack different systems. What do I need to accomplish the task I'm trying to accomplish? And if you're not a student of those things, then you're just going to sit back and you're going to watch things happen and you're going to watch other people run past you. And so that becomes the real opening for you, the real opportunity is to become the person who has been astute enough to go, I know what needs to be deployed here. I know which system works best for this use case. I know that if I've got to make this happen, here's where I'm going to build the architecture. I know which AI I'm going to use to help me build the infrastructure. I know which one's going to manage it. I know which one I'm going to use to facilitate this or which one I'm going to use to communicate this. And that's the piece where I think too many people are just getting stuck. They're in analysis paralysis. I'm just going to wait. No, get in there and start testing.
Yes.
The idea is initially I built a lot of things with Claude, and then I found out Claude was getting a little clunky with the builds, and I went back and I had DeepSeek rework a lot of those things, and I found DeepSeek was a little more efficient in the build. So I changed a lot of things over to DeepSeek. Not because I was disappointed with the way Claude built it, but Claude was building a lot of extra steps in that kept breaking.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
And it
fine.
was costing tokens.
It's costing tokens. That's exactly it. So, and now here's the other thing we're seeing. Let's be honest about that. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen China break apart the Manus purchase by Meta, and we've seen the US government come in and tell Claude, hey, we really don't want you using this latest model. So it's been put on hold. So now we're having to think about, am I going to be held hostage
Yeah.
based on a model I'm using? Do I have redundancies in place? If my model goes down, what's my backup plan? Are we thinking through those things? What have you put in place? Like one of the things that I've got in place is I've got redundancies. That was something I was already thinking through from the beginning. If I lose this, what's my backup plan? Because I don't want my business back to the network marketing lesson. I lost checks because some owner crashed an MLM company. I don't want to lose my business because
Yeah,
Somebody's AI company gets hammered.
absolutely. This takes me back to your Terminator analogy. Looking forward, what does the next Terminator look like for Simplicity Marketing or the other businesses? And where's the agency headed over the next 3 to 5 years, whether it's partnerships or capabilities that are going to be essential to get you there?
Well, for us, we're already kind of in this transition from just being a pure marketing company to now we've had to adjust to it's not just marketing anymore because
Hmm.
what do you do once that client lands? If your AI systems are not up to speed, once that client or that prospect lands, there's a problem. I just had a sales call this afternoon where I was asking the prospect, what's your speed to lead? What's your lead flow look like? So that prospect is filling out a form. What's happening? Well, it's going to my email. I said, well, how long is it taking for you to get to that lead? Well, most of the time it's within 5 minutes, but sometimes it could be 4 or 5 hours. I said, well, in today's world, you've already lost.
Hmm.
I said, because so many people are already using AI virtual assistants, AI receptionists, instant automation. If you're not on top of that lead in the first 2 minutes, you're already dead. So
Yeah.
now we're dealing with systems behind that marketing lead. What's your follow up look like? How quickly are you on top of that lead? How about your billing system? How about your review system? How about your accounting systems? How about there's so many other components now that we are having to help our clients work through that are not just marketing related because they're having to figure out the AI side of things. And now it's even into your staffing. Do you still need somebody to manage your data management, your data entry? My wife is a freelance bookkeeper. She found out that Manus can manage a whole lot of her data entry pieces that she used to have to outsource to somebody. Well, $40 a month will take care of that. Yeah, she just cut a lot of expenses and it takes
Freed up our time.
all of 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's a piece that we can now bring to the table with a client. Hey, I can help you be more efficient here. So that's where I see us moving is not just marketing expertise, but business automation, business efficiency, because it's not just stopping at getting the client to your door. Are they having the same level of experience once they get to your door?
It's basically getting the client is easy and keeping them happy is the challenge now with all the AI entering the space, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
And for you, the business owner, are you operating as efficiently as you could? Are you still wasting time that you don't need to be wasting?
Yep.
Could you be using your time better on things that are more valuable and more productive?
In very binary terms, right? If you've got a Netflix or a Prime or a HBO subscription, right, you're paying money to take time away from you.
Hmm.
If you're paying an agency or an AI subscription, either or both combination, you are paying to put time back in your day.
That's right.
So,
Cheap, shameless
yeah.
plug. I don't get paid for this. Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time. Everybody should go read it. Pay money to buy back some of your time.
And thank you for sharing that. That's good. For those that are still wondering or sitting on the fence and thinking, well, what's my future look like? The book should answer some of that. You made a point that most business owners think they're doing a great job branding themselves, but the machine may not see it that way. What internal metrics do you track to know your own digital presence is healthy? And are there areas where visibility is still a blind spot as a business owner?
I simply go out and ask any of the AI platforms or search engines, who is, and stick your name there and see what it tells you. And if you're not getting the answer that you're satisfied with, you got work to do.
Well, this has been a wonderful information download from my perspective. And I'm sure we're going to get a few people trying to reach out to you to know more and to get some of your expertise on solving their business needs and their problems. So, Carl, it's been a pleasure having you. And is there any parting words you want to leave us with?
No, I think the biggest thing I want to leave you with is just this. Google is already moving us here. If you are not laying the proper foundation of creating the right signals and data points, you will be invisible. Google is recommending 2, maybe 3 recommendations for every search that it is offering up agentic results for. And if you are not part of that, psychologically, you don't exist anymore. Out of sight, out of mind. And so, this last question you asked me, how do you know if you're doing a good job of branding yourself? That's a real sobering tell. Pull that search up on an agent and see what it says. And if it's not saying much about you, you haven't put enough data out there about who you are, what you do, for AI to make a valid decision about what you're all about. You've got work to do. And that's the point that I really want to leave you with. The machine is just that, it's a machine, and it's going to give you a very unbiased view of what you have put out in the universe about who you are and what you do. And your opinion doesn't matter. The machine is just telling you what it sees. And so if you don't like what you get back, there's work to be done.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It kind of reminded me of a movie from, I think, 2010, 2012, Erased. So when you say if you search and you don't like what you find or it doesn't pull up anything, that tells you that's a red flag. You need to work on your presence. You need to work on your online profile or business exposure and
Absolutely.
find Carl. Well, awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking out the time towards the end of your day, and we hope to bring you back. It's not going to be so that long, but maybe in a couple months we'll have some more updates and some more exciting things to talk about, and we're hoping to have you back.
Hey, thanks for having me on today.
My pleasure.